Welcome to my long overdue room tour. I know quite a lot of people might want to see my collection, so this is a video that will show it off. What I've decided not to do is go through every single Blu-ray I have, or we'll be here for 6 years. I'm not joking. So we're not going to do that, but you'll see some titles in the video obviously, and you'll say, oh, that's interesting, and that's fine, but I just don't have time to go through every individual title. There are separate videos on my channel going through my Criterion collection and my 4K collection, the 4K wall, as I'm going to show you shortly. But basically, also I'll talk about the actual setup I have for surround sound. I was very lucky to get a sort of a bit of a windfall of money last year and decided to upgrade my television and my speaker system. So I'm going to show you all of that as well in this video too. Right, so we start with the 4K wall. So here we go, there is the 4K wall. I don't actually know how many 4Ks I actually have. I've been collecting them really since they were first coming out. I'm very sad to tell you my very first 4K release is Ghostbusters Answer the Call. Now, I didn't buy it deliberately. I got it free with my Blu-ray player, my first Panasonic player, so do forgive me. It's still in my collection because it is a Ghostbusters film. As bad as people think it still is a Ghostbusters film. It's still there. So it's in my 4K collection. Throughout the years, I bought an awful lot of US 4Ks because early in the sort of 4K startup time, there were lots of great 4K releases in the US, but the UK sort of had a later takeoff, really, before HMV started to stock them properly. So I was buying a lot of them from the US, and to be honest, I still do, because a lot of the titles come out first in the US before they come out in the UK. And I'm an impatient so-and-so, so there you go. Anyway, there's the 4K wall, as you can see. Let me zoom in a little bit on the box sets at the top. As you see, I've got the Columbia Classics, the Harry Potter set. There's also the, yes, I know I've got Transformers, please don't shout at me. Got the Matrix 3 disc set there, the Dawn of the Dead, of course, from Second Sight. I keep a lot of my ordinary Blu-ray box sets up here as well. There's the Bourne's ones there. The Jack Ryan set, etc, etc. And as you can see, as you go down the 4K wall, there's all the DC films in a row there, and there's all the Star Wars movies here. There they are, all 11. And as you can see, you've got the Nolan stuff together. I don't have them in any sort of order, which might drive people mad when they see this. As you can see, look, the Da Vinci ones are all together, but the Robert Langdon ones, and obviously you've got those are together, as you can see, the Hunger Games films, but everything else is just everywhere else. Let's put the Divergent ones together. When they're part of a set, they tend to go together, but to be honest, I don't tend to bother that much. So as you can see, the sort of tail end of the Criterion collection is here. That is, of course, in spine number order. Who wouldn't put their Criterions in spine number order? And as you can see at the bottom, more 4Ks. I'm running out of space, guys, as you can see. So this room is not the main Blu-ray room either. But as you can see, I'm mixing in some surround sound discs there. I'm a big surround sound fan. And then if we turn around, you'll see past the TV, there's another case there of sort of miscellaneous stuff that I bought in the last year. There's some Second Sight stuff there again, Arrow box sets, Arrow generally there. Been a lot of good Arrow buys in the last few. There's the 88 films, the 101 films. And on this side, there's another cabinet there. You might not focus so well on that one because of the light. But as you can see, again, it's a bit of a mixture, and they're not sorted. The BFIs tend to be together generally as well. And then turning around to this wall, you'll see the main bulk of my Criterion collection is here, again in spine number order. You've probably seen these on my videos, especially the Criterion videos. And as you can see, as I go down, A fairly substantial Criterion collection there that built up over the last 10 years. These are recent purchases which have still got to be stacked away somewhere. Not quite sure where yet, but I think I might be ordering some more storage units, to be honest with you. Got the Wonka wide box set up there, the Game of Thrones 4K, the Indie 4K, Don't Look Now, which is a great Studio Canal 4K release. So as you can see, this room is basically the sort of secondary Blu-ray room. It's where most of the new stuff is stored, and therefore I watch my movies and TV in this dedicated room in my flat. So I basically have all of my main 4Ks to hand. There's no 4Ks in the room downstairs. So now we're going to go down to the main Blu-ray room where the bulk of my collection is. Now this is a room that's sort of a multi-functional room. It's a bit messy at the minute because we've been doing a lot of filming in the last couple of weeks in my flat, and therefore there's lots of film lights and bits and pieces and film paraphernalia. But it's a mixture of sort of CDs and Blu-rays together, because I have a fairly substantial CD collection. But I'll turn you around and you'll sort of see I'm going to move away completely from all the rubbish there. And as you can see, the cabinets, I've opened them deliberately so you can see, there's quite a substantial Blu-ray library here. As I just take you down, they're not in any filed order at all. There's a reason for this which I'll explain in a moment. But as you can see, I can't actually bend down. That's one of the problems I have at the moment. And then obviously moving along, you've got all of these earlier Blu-ray sets. There's all the Dexters, some of them from the US, some from the UK, Star Trek films, the Alien Anthology, The Expanse, Mel Brooks, X-Files, Superman, Lecter films, all The Walking Dead, some Breaking Bad, which I started buying from the US, and then I bought the lovely Barrel, which has got all of the series in it from the US. All the Shameless US titles as well there. You've got House. And then over here you have more. Peaky Blinders, the Crown series. The new series is up in the other room. Gotham, all the Gothams, all the Flashes. Supergirl. Trem, which I quite liked as a series on HBO. And then we have the X-Files Blu-ray box set. That's a fantastic set, that one. Moving into this cabinet, then you've got again a mixed bag of stuff. You've got lots of Weed series there before I gave up on it, really. Got a bit silly towards the end. Various movies of different types, all mixed in. That's not really, that's sort of CDs. And then down, it's because the sort of cabinets sometimes have a sort of hole that's not big enough for a Blu-ray, so I put CDs in there. Lots of shelving here for even more Blu-rays. There's the Battlestar Galactica US set there. House of Cards. The less said about that, the better. Series 6 was a complete disaster. Bates Motel 1 to 5. That was a sort of cheapie on Zoom, that one. And we go down, and we go down, and we go down, and we go down. Big collection. Upwards to about 3,000, I would say, altogether. There we go, right to the floor. And then obviously some more new releases that I've sort of, as the annex from above, upstairs, I put down here. Again, a lot of these I bought in the last sort of 6 to 8 months. And there's Lahane, BFI set, Revenge, Upgrade, Road Games from Powerhouse Indicator, Scum, Eric the Viking, etc, etc. And then there's another cabinet down here which I'll show you. There's 2 cabinets actually. Here we go. And again, this tends to be stuff I've already watched, so it goes into this cabinet. If I've watched it, it comes down here to the main room rather than keep it upstairs. Monty Python, Broadchurch, various TV series, TV and movies sort of mixed in, really. And then again, oh sorry, my microphone's dragging there. There you go, microphone lead rather. And again, a BFI DVD box set there. Various bits and pieces I've bought and acquired. There's the HMD premiums at the very bottom. Not a massive collection. I pick and choose on the premiums, to be honest. I have a lot of these releases already on Blu-ray, so I don't really see the reason to buy them again, just because they've got a nice silver design box. I'm not that much of a sad sack, if you know what I mean. So basically, there we go. That is mainly, in a nutshell, sort of whistle-stop tour of the Blu-ray room and the main bulk of my collection. Obviously, as a collector, it tends to never end, because you're always buying new stuff all the time, and it never ever ends. It goes on forever. It's like a constant mission to get to the end, and there never is an end. But you're never thinking about that when you're on the journey. You're always, I mean, I don't know about you, I mean, certainly I'm double dipping all over this show. I mean, I've bought goodness knows how many things. I've already gotten Blu-ray on 4K, and then off the Blu-ray goes to CEX, but of course a lot of those Blu-rays I bought in the US. So that's my Blu-ray collection, folks. I'm going to now check the video onto sort of a tripod, because I want to talk to you all about surround sound and basically what you need to do to get a decent surround sound system up and running, so you can enjoy all these wonderful formats for Dolby Vision and HDR10 and Atmos and DTS:X in the comfort of your own home. Okay, so now we come to the final part of the video, and this is about surround sound. Now, a lot of people are really talking a lot on the videos about buying great new 4K TVs. They don't actually mention if they've got a separate standalone sound system, or do they use sound bars. Most people just say, I've got my brand new 4K TV, I can't wait to see this 4K. But I often wonder, they're watching the fantastic Dolby Vision picture on their new TV, because all they need is a Dolby Vision capable 4K Blu-ray player and a 4K Dolby Vision capable TV, and they're there. But what are they getting on the sound side? This is what intrigues me. For me, the sound side of the film is almost as important as the picture. In fact, in some cases more so. Now let me expand on why I think this is. The filmmakers, when they make the picture, they use fantastic quality cameras. Nolan is going to shoot in IMAX, for instance, so that'll translate to 4K, crisp as ever. And Tenet is a good example of that, and Interstellar, of course. Now, he doesn't support the surround sound format, the immersive surround sound format, should I say, of Atmos or DTS:X. He's been known on interview to say he doesn't support it. He doesn't agree with it. Lots of filmmakers, however, do. And major films, of course, from Marvel and Disney all have Atmos soundtracks. Surround sound started sort of, I would say, in the late 80s, early 90s with something called Dolby Surround. It then sort of graduated to Dolby Digital 5.1. That's where you needed 6 speakers to get the full surround sound effect. Subwoofer, that's a 0.1, your low frequency speaker. It's usually a big square box. Then you have a center speaker, a left and right front speaker, and a left and right rear speaker. Now, then they went up to something called 7.1. 8 speakers, where you had speakers in the center of your sound field. Again, subwoofer 0.1, your center, your left and right, your mid left and right, your rear left and right. In some cases, some people only had one rear speaker on their 7.1 setup, but that would have technically made it a 6.1 setup. And funny enough, Blu-ray releases like Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring films, were all in something called discrete DTS, DTS ES for 6.1, for people who didn't buy the extra speaker. When I took the first plunge into surround, it was 5.1, and I was buying films on, really not on Blu-ray, on DVD at the time, like Pitch Black. So I was a very, very early exponent of surround sound. I had a DVD player from Pioneer. It was very exciting. It was all new, and of course I'd spent about £700 on the player. They were so expensive back then, and I had a 5.1, and Pitch Black on DTS 5.1 blew my room out. It was fantastic. Then it got better and better and better, and of course 6.1 came around. As I say, with the Lord of the Rings films, introduced that in a big way, and then 7.1 started to creep in. Now 7.1 is largely used a lot on Blu-ray discs now. You'll see if you look on the back of some disc, it'll actually say 7.1. But most of the DTS format that you see now, that's DTS HD Master Audio is the most popular sound format available today on discs, and it provides an excellent 6-channel field, 5.1. Some of them will have 7.1 mixes, and they are very good as well, but you need to have 8 speakers for that. You need to have those 2 center speakers left and right and 2 rear speakers left and right, plus the center, front, and your left front, right and left, and your subwoofer. Now that can be quite costly, because obviously a standard speaker set could cost between £300 and £400 at the time, but when you added another 2 speakers and then another 2 at the back, you were almost spending twice as much money. Plus you also had to have something called an AVR, an audio visual receiver. Now the audio visual receivers in those days were quite expensive. Again, popular formats, Pioneer, Onkyo, and of course nowadays the leaders are Denon, Marantz and Yamaha. I have a Marantz SR7015. So that's the very new receiver that just came out last September, and that allows you to have the immersive sound formats. So the immersive sound formats was the next step forward from 7.1. You still had DTS as a core on all of these formats, but you introduced 2 new formats, DTS and Dolby Atmos. Now the difference between these and the ordinary surround format was quite formidable, and the difference was it was object-oriented sound. In other words, the mixers in the production studios were putting sound, placing it in a sound field, not saying this has got to go to this speaker or this has got to go to that speaker. They were saying this will float somewhere in the middle or this will move back and forward. So it's objects, so objects moving in the sound field, like flying spacecraft, aircraft, whatever, or even things just whizzing past people's head, like somebody throwing something. It would have object-oriented sound. This is what Dolby Atmos and DTS:X actually does, and it can have multiple speaker setups. So Dolby Atmos can have as many speakers as you want, and so can DTS:X. Slightly different speaker configurations. This is not terribly technical, so I won't go into all the speaker configurations for each format. Suffice to say, you need quite a few speakers. So last year I took the plunge with my new amplifier. I said, I want to hear this Dolby Atmos, I want to hear this DTS:X, I want the right speaker setup. To do that, I already had the 7.1. I had to increase it to what we would call 12 speakers. So again, on the Atmos format, the lowest you can do with Atmos to make it work is 5.12. Now what that means is you have your 6-channel speakers as normal, but in addition to that you have 2 height speakers. That's the 2, either at the front or the back of your room, or indeed in the ceiling. They are what gives you that height sound, and that is where Atmos will happen. So obviously you have to spend a bit of money to get there. I decided to go one better than that and have 2 at the front and 2 at the back, so I went 7.14, and I bought 4 SVS height elevation speakers. I'm going to pan to one of them now so you can see it. There it is. It's a small thing, but my goodness, is it a powerful baby. So in each of the corners of my room, not quite the corners, but each of the areas of the room at height, I have one of these speakers. So let me just show you the other one on the other side of the room. Here we go, because it's directly on the opposite side on top of the other cabinet. And you might notice that they're pointing downwards, as you can see. So the sound goes down. The other one is way over here. I don't know if I can actually get to it. I'll try. I'm panning around. It's not easy. Here we go. Yeah, right on the far corner. There it is. Can you see it? And then panning over to this one. Just going to pan you over to that now. Very quickly on the other side of the room. Oh, sorry. Just dropped something on the floor there. Here we go. It's coming up now. There it is. Number 4. So they give you the height in front of you and behind you. And what happens with Dolby Atmos and DTS:X, the sound goes above your head. Now, in some of these formats, you have something called the voice of God, which is a big center speaker in the ceiling. I am not allowed to put big speakers up in my flat because I rent my flat, so I'm not allowed to put big speakers up on the ceiling unless I have specific permission. I'm thinking maybe of asking for that permission, but obviously I'm not going to be doing that. I'll have to get someone in to do it for me, a friend or something who's good at that sort of thing. But voice of God is that big boomy speaker above you where you can actually hear, literally, that's why it's called the voice of God, where you could hear this voice of God coming from above your head. So the two formats, why are they different? Why is Dolby Atmos and DTS:X different? It's simply because they're different companies. So DTS:X has, again, an immersive sound format, object-based. The good example of DTS:X being introduced really well was through the Harry Potter 4Ks. All of them are DTS:X. So if you put one of them in your player, it'll play the sound as DTS. If you have an amplifier like the Marantz SR7015 or a similar amplifier, you will hear that in the Philosopher's Stone where Harry Potter plays the game of Quidditch. Wow, he is flying all over my room. He is above my head. I can feel him whistle past my ears above my head. It's amazing. So if you pay the money, what is the money? Let me go to that next. If you pay the money, you will get what you want, basically. It's like anything. I had the existing bass speaker system already. The other thing I introduced last year, which I'd never thought of before, but watching some videos other experts made, they all pointed towards this being a good move, and that was external front left and right speakers through a separate amplifier. So that amplifier I purchased on eBay, and here it is, and what it does is you connect it to the back of your amplifier and it takes your left and right front speaker into a separate amplification mode, and the sound difference is incredible, simply because it's a better amplifier at doing the front sound. And most movies has sound from the front. The dialogue will always come from the front on films because it goes to the center speaker automatically, and then any ambient effects usually go to the rear or height speakers, and obviously the main sound, especially music, tends to focus on the front two speakers left and right. So I hope I haven't bored you too much by this. I'll show you on my amplifier quickly the speaker setup I currently have, and this, if you've got a simpler amplifier, you can see how that looks on the screen. So I have said that my front center's small, you have to say that, subwoofer's 1, surround back 2 small, surround small, and as you can see from that diagram, that's a bit like what my speaker system currently looks like. The only difference is my height speakers aren't coming off the ceiling, but they're certainly close to the ceiling. So that configuration is your basic configuration for an Atmos setup, and you can see here on this screen, this is what that actually looks like. And you can probably see there that when you have that speaker configuration set up, the amplifier automatically clicks to support any sound format coming to it of those three: Dolby Atmos, DTS:X and Auro 3D. And what you have to make it work is all of this. You have to have 5 channels and a subwoofer on the floor, 4 height speakers, front and rear, and a pre-out at front, which is optional, but that's the front speakers going out to a separate amplifier. So there you go. Auro 3D, I'll maybe talk about another time because it's just another sound format, but it's very specific on the channels it needs to use and the speaker configuration it needs to use. And if you set your speaker configuration on your amp the wrong way, Auro 3D will never appear, because it's a specific speaker configuration, as I say. So Mondo Chilovic movies, I hope that's been useful for you to appreciate. All I would say is stay clear of front up firing speakers. They don't do a good enough job because they fire the sound up towards the ceiling and it's meant to bounce off the ceiling down towards you, and that's where you're supposed to get that above your head effect. I've tried it, it's crap. It doesn't work. That was my first attempt to buy some cheap Onkyo up firing speakers, and they were awful. They were like little wooden boxes. They were useless. These SFVS elevation speakers, before I go, I'm going to put on a screen the prices of these things. It isn't cheap. Here is it. You can see the price of the amplifier, the price of the television I'm currently using, the price of the SVS elevation speakers per pair, and then your basic 5.1 speaker system on top. It's not cheap, but I built to it in stages, and that makes it more affordable, I think, in the long run. So I hope I haven't rambled on too long on this video for you. I hope you found it interesting and informative. I try to make all my videos that. And I'll see you on the next Criterion video. Criterion releases for July, coming up in about a week's time. Until then, I'm signing off. As always, stay well and keep watching those movies.